You did everything they told you to do, right? You built the career, you made the money, you checked every box, and now you're sitting there asking yourself the one question you're too embarrassed to say out loud. Is this it? Is this all there is for me? It's the question you've been asking yourself for months, maybe even years. It shows up at really weird times, sometimes Tuesday afternoon, sometimes while you're sitting in traffic, looking at your bank account, looking at your life, and this voice in your back of your head just whispers, is this it? And you feel guilty for even thinking it, because on paper, you're winning. You look around and you're doing way better than most of the people you know. You should be grateful. You should be satisfied, but you're not. And I was in that exact spot only a few years ago. You know, I had a great job. I was the athletic director of a big school. I had a championship basketball team that I was coaching. I was working with elite athletes at the national level. I was making a ton of money. I had a house, car, boat, all the fixings that says you won. And I was still asking myself that question, that unsatisfied itch that was just under the skin. And that's when I started to realize that it was something called the Arrival Fallacy. Now, psychologists made that name up, the Arrival Fallacy, right? Because they have to have a label for everything. But this is how it works. When you're working away and you're telling yourself, when I get there, I'll be happy, and when I get that promotion, or when I get the partnership, when I hit that sales number, when I buy the house, when you get there, that's when you're going to be totally satisfied. And that lasts for a while when you do get there, right? Because when you get there, you're getting yourself settled and you're learning the things that it takes to be there at that level. But then you wake up one morning, the alarm goes off, and you feel kind of the same, kind of worse, because there's nothing to chase now, right? You've reached whatever your top of your mountain is, and you just got the view from the top now, right? And you realize the view wasn't exactly what you thought it was going to be. Now, this isn't a theory, and this is biology, and it's because when we're doing the chasing, right, the trying to accomplish, the climbing, the striving to get somewhere, we're releasing a lot of dopamine, and that's a super addictive drug, right? And it comes down to survival, because in our past, if a hunter was satisfied after a kill, he wouldn't go out and get another kill, so he'd have nothing to eat, and so he'd die. So the hunters kept going because he was always hungry, right? And dopamine was in the chase and the kill, and so he would do that again to get that same dopamine. For us, you know, when we get to the finish line, the dopamine's over, right? I don't know how many of you have ever raced or done sporting events, but it's the getting there that is the truly satisfying, exciting part. The actual win, crossing the finish line, is like, okay, cool, did that, gone, tick that off, okay? So don't feel bad, you're not broken. You're just running software that we've been running since, 200 million years ago 200,000 years ago with our ancestors. But that's kind of where it gets dangerous, because once you achieve everything and still feel empty, men do one of two things. One, we start to fill that void with other things to chase, right? I did. I started doing marathons and Ironmans and coaching higher level elite athletes and doing all sorts of stuff, that trying to fill that void to get that same feeling. And so, they'll be going after the next promotion, more money, the bigger sales, whatever it is. And the second thing, or the other thing that they could do, is they shrink into what they're doing. And it doesn't happen suddenly, and it's not like but they just quietly stop trying, really, right? And it's not dramatic, it's not this huge crisis or breakdown. They just kind of put everything on autopilot, really. That's a good way to explain it, right? And what happens is everything starts to slide downhill. Marriage doesn't quite do it anymore, and your health goes downhill. So maybe you pack on a little bit of weight. You're not. Who cares, right? And you scroll a bit more, and you drink a little bit more and you care a little bit less. So we either double down on everything or we fade away with it. And both paths lead to the same place, right? The man who looks successful on the outside but feels hollow on the inside. Now, I had a client that did this exact thing. He chased being a partner in his company and he worked his rear end off for years. And he finally made it. And he was going along good, first 3, 4, 5 months were golden for him, right? Because he was establishing himself there. He was kind of reveling in the win. And then everything started just kind of drifting along, right? He put on a lot of weight. He was drinking a little bit more. He kind of just didn't care. He was showing up and doing what he was supposed to do. Don't get me wrong. He was still doing a good job, but he was just not really going after it, right? And here's the part that should scare you about that scenario was nobody was coming to save him. Nobody's coming to save you. And everybody you know doesn't understand what the hell you're talking about. Your wife doesn't understand it, or your partner when you explain it to them. Your friends don't understand it. They think you should be grateful, right, for what you got and where you're at. Even your friends, most of your man friends don't want to talk about it because they're in the exact same trap you're in. They just haven't realized it yet. Your boss definitely doesn't care because he just wants you to keep showing up and doing what you're doing, right? And so the world looks at your life and thinks you won on paper. It looks awesome. So what do? You suffer in silence. I did. I can remember many a day where, I told my secretaries to, cancel my appointments. I basically sat in my office almost in tears because I didn't know how to get out of this, right? And the problem wasn't that I wasn't successful enough. The problem was that I didn't have a plan, and you don't have a plan for this trap that you've fallen into. And I think you can even lump this into the comfort complacency trap, right? We got somewhere, even if it's not quite where we thought we were going to get to, it was good enough. And our subconscious, we told ourselves that many, many times. And as we got there, we got to a point where it was like, yeah, this is okay, we're doing good. And you just kind of eased off the gas and put the car in neutral and just sat there, put the car in park. And so then the longer we sat there, the harder it was to get started again, because of course, to get restarted takes so much energy. I mean, you think about a rocket when it blasts off, to get out of Earth's atmosphere, to get out of the way of gravity, takes so much fuel that we basically can't go any further, right? So it's the same for us. If you ever stopped an exercise program and then started again months later, it's so hard. Even though you had great habits before, it's so hard to reestablish that stuff. So when I fell into that, when I found myself in that spot, and I was, sitting in my office feeling really bad, and I started thinking, well, what next for me? And that was the wrong question. And I realized that I was like, every time I asked what next, I was filling up my day with something else, filling up with another challenge, another Ironman, another marathon, another athlete to coach, another thing to start, another program to run, whatever it was, another pay raise to get. And I realized that wasn't doing it. So I changed my question and started asking myself, what matters to me now? Trying to find the why to do stuff, right? And that is when I totally had my epiphany, or my moment where I broke free, right? And that wasn't a crisis. That was the beginning of something real, because the emptiness you feel isn't a sign of failure. It's a signal, right? It's like a firework going off, or a flare going off. And it's telling yourself that the metrics that you use to get where you are aren't working for you now. They were good for then, but things are different now. You got to set something up new, and that's not a crisis. That's the beginning of finally something real for yourself. Most men never get there, right? They either die chasing something, chase, or they get complacent and just drift away down the river of life. But you're here. You're asking the question, and that's not weakness. That's honest, probably the most honest you've been for years. And here's why I know that you can't solve this alone. I didn't. I reached out to my coach that I had for many, many years, and I needed help because you're kind of too close to the stuff. What's the saying? You can't see the forest for the trees. That's what it's like, right? Because you're immersed in it, it's too hard to navigate your way through. So having something there to help is, you can't kind of debug your own code from inside the system. And that's why I built the 14-day reset program. It's not a course, not a motivational program. It's a structured process to help you figure out what actually matters to you now, and not to society, and definitely not to the 25-year-old you. That was the old metrics that we used to get where we are now. But what is going to matter to you now, your new why, right? And how to start building yourself around that. So you don't have to destroy everything. You're just on a new, higher launch pad, which is freaking awesome, when you think about it. But anyway, my 14-day reset, totally free, links down below. No fluff, no motivational speeches, just a good, solid process to get you going. And if you want help, book a call with me. I'm happy to get on a call with you and discuss how to put it all together and how to make it happen for yourself. But whether you download it or not, tonight, start changing that question, right? Stop asking yourself, what next? Because that just keeps you on the hamster wheel. What next? What next? What next? And you'll just keep chasing whatever that what next is. Start asking yourself, what matters to me now? What do I, what's really valuable to me now? And I tell you what, it's uncomfortable. I'm going to warn you, it's an uncomfortable question to ask and to start analyzing what that is, because you might find that, not that you've done anything wrong, but maybe you took a slight detour that you shouldn't have been on, or you stopped too early, or you need a totally different change of direction. That's what happened to me. I totally left education and athletics and high performance sport coaching and went in a real scary direction. Started my own business, started working with entrepreneurs and CEOs and executives and speaking engagements all over the world. So it's terrifying, right? But it also is so freeing once you find that answer, okay? And the men that figure this out, they're not the smartest ones. They're not the ones that have achieved the most or anything like that. They're just the ones that stop pushing and running long enough to ask the real questions. And so congratulations, you're ready to ask the right question now.